Funding for Working Lunch is provided by the financial contributions of viewers like you. Additional funding is provided by First Bank, McGuire Woods Consulting, and Fidelity Investments.
I'm Joe Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Working Lunch, where today we talk about a number of issues that impact North Carolina's economic landscape with a great group of business leaders. So pull up a chair and join us for today's Working Lunch. Working Lunch is a production of UNC TV in association with the North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation. I'm Joe Stewart, and welcome to today's Working Lunch. We have a great, diverse assortment of business leaders from across North Carolina here at 18 Seaboard Restaurant in Raleigh. We're having a great conversation. Sheila, tell us a little bit about this initiative that you've started in Cary, the Innovation Program.
The Cary Innovation Center is a small business incubator. We focus on Main Street businesses, and the town of Cary wanted a small business incubator located in downtown to try to draw some of these small independent businesses to our area. And so I had an advertising agency in this space, which I sold, and then I had empty space. So the town gave me a small grant to start this. And it's been an amazing experience because I work with different small businesses every day. We have a waiting list for space. And the biggest reason that we have a turnover is, which is very exciting, businesses actually leave their homes, come and rent space from me. Their businesses grow and they need bigger space. So it's been a really fabulous experience, and along the way I've been able to mentor to some of these people that come in and they think that they have like a great idea, you know, and you say, so why do you think somebody would want to do that? And so they go into all of these, you know, explanations and everything. And sometimes it's a great idea, and sometimes, you know, you say you really need to rethink that or reposition that or think of a different model. So it's been a really fun initiative for me. I'm in the 4th year of doing this, and have seen many, many businesses come and go. You know, the saddest thing is when somebody says, it really didn't work and I think I'm going back home. Yeah. You know.
Yeah. Bonner, you work for a company that's been very innovative in its approach to retail here in Raleigh. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm general manager at North Hills, and I handle all the marketing, the public safety, maintenance, custodial, everything that happens on the property on a day-to-day basis is my responsibility. And so we get to interact with a lot of different businesses. We interact with small mom and pop shops. We interact with national tenants, hotels, office tenants, residents. So it's really an all-inclusive environment, and we have a lot of different businesses that are successful, and seeing the different dynamics between them has been really interesting.
Yeah, and many of those establishments may serve products that Ryan's company produces. Ryan, tell us a little bit about Joyce Foods.
Joyce Farms is it's a 3rd-generation family-owned and operated company that was started by my grandfather in 1962. We have approximately 100 employees, and we are in the specialty market of growing, processing, and selling heritage poultry and grass-fed beef. We sell to center-of-the-plate distributors, and they go out to the best white tablecloth restaurants in America.
And we don't have a white tablecloth here today, but this is a fine dining establishment too.
It's lunch.
It's lunch, that's right. Well, Doug, tell us a little bit about what you do with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, I'm our Vice President of Marketing, also oversee our nonprofit, the Kids and Community Foundation. So we are a major professional sports team in the Triangle, the only one, and we are still the only team in the state of North Carolina at a major professional level to win a championship. I love working here. I grew up in the Carolinas, so I like the fact that we've got a team in the Triangle. I love what it means to the city and the way it brings everybody together. I went to NC State. My brother went to UNC. It's the one thing we can actually agree on.
How does Thanksgiving work?
Yeah, delicately. Usually with me crying. But I've enjoyed that community aspect that the team brings.
Well, you know, all of you are in industries that rely heavily on the economy of North Carolina being strong and prosperous. What are some of the challenges you see facing our state in terms of maintaining a healthy economic environment?
I would say it's employing skilled workers. We continuously face retention problems and keeping people who want to work. I feel like we're always competing with the government against benefits and, you know, the motivation not to work. It's too easy to sit at home and not do anything. People just need to get back to work. offer competitive pay. We start at $9. We have a very generous matching program with our 401k. We offer obviously health insurance. We do dental, vision, several perks to working there, but we just can't seem to retain quality workers.
Similar problems?
I think for our industry, there's certainly worker shortages, and there's a desire to continue to hire. We also have 64 people moving into Wake County every day. So we've got people arriving here, and in order to keep up our quality of life for our area, education is a key component of that. Education has driven our economy for a long time. Our higher education institutions have attracted incredible talent. We've got 75% of the people who are moving here have a college degree or higher, average age of under 32, and so we keep getting younger and smarter as a community, and so to keep up our education system commensurate with that, I think is a key component of our long-term growth.
With that growth, and having grown up here as you did, I never saw a whole body of water frozen over until I went to a hockey game. So clearly the growth of North Carolina has brought in a lot of people more familiar with the sport. The fan base of the Carolina Hurricanes is pretty considerable, but what are the challenges you face in making it possible for folks to have a quality entertainment experience?
Yeah. When I look at this, I think it's twofold. One would be the battle for the disposable income, the entertainment dollar. And I think a lot of times people think that that's just us kind of battling the local schools. We kind of look at it as a nice night out at North Hills and a movie is the same entertainment dollar that we're all after. So as the city grows, as our area grows, there are more restaurants, there are more bars, there's more things to do, which is great, and it's vibrancy. But what you need to kind of back in that support, that I think where we struggle a little bit, is the top end corporate support. We have a lot of secondary offices here, and we have a lot of middle to small businesses here, but top level headquarters are not something that I think is the strong suit of the Triangle or really even North Carolina. And if you look around professional sports, that's what tends to support, whether it's sports, entertainment, the arts, nonprofits, is those headquartered companies usually do well in their headquartered towns. So I think the Triangle has one of the top 10 businesses, public businesses in the state. That number needs to grow if the state and our area will continue to grow.
Julie, what are some of the challenges you face?
Well, I would tend to agree that finding qualified employees is really a challenge. I also have an events facility in downtown Cary called the Matthews House, and we have a catering arm that goes with that, as well as, staffers for events and that sort of thing. And it just appears to me, after being that, I don't see the work ethic carry through to the employees in the food and beverage industry. Having sort of grown up in the advertising world, it was just a different mindset, and I depend on Wake Tech a lot, who we have a wonderful culinary school there, and Wake Tech has the advantage of training lots of people in this area and sending employees out. So that has been one way that I've been able to face that challenge. But I do agree that finding people with a good work ethic and that want to come to work, because the benefits from the state have made it so easy for people not to work, that and also finding affordable child care. Sometimes women don't work because it costs them more for their child care than they can make in the workforce. So I see that as another real challenge, is finding, affordable child care for women or men in the workforce.
I agree 100% with that.
Yeah.
One of the things we see with the rise of millennials, not just as a part of the workforce, but as consumers, they have a very different approach, very different attitudes about things. How are you seeing that in your businesses?
Well, one of the things that we're seeing is that people want to engage differently. They want not just a standard shopping experience. They want a comprehensive experience. They don't want to go and have one place that they go to shop, one place that they go to office, and then another place that they drive far away to recreate. And so the convergence of all those is something that we're seeing millennials are very desirous of. Whether it's living in an urban environment downtown or at North Hills, Millennials want activity. They want to be able to walk out their door and have convenience. Everybody in the millennial are digital natives. They're accustomed to a phone in their hand that gives them whatever they want, whenever they want it. And they want that in the physical realm as well. They want to be able to walk outside and have a plethora of choices of where they want to go and spend their time, meet their friends, and enjoy themselves. And so we're seeing the millennial trend towards urban interests, and the desire for urban areas is pretty significant and driving a lot of our success.
Yeah, and I think you will see that if you look at what downtown Cary is doing, you know, with infill and development coming to downtown Cary, more hotels, more office, more entertainment, more restaurants, and so and the millennials are who's going to be the older people like me, you know, in the coming years. And so, as you say, Bonner, there are things that we have to address as business people in the community, whether it's something that we want or not. We have to be able to adhere to what they want.
Well, for a digital generation, are you finding there's a difference in their expectations in terms of a real experience like a hockey game?
Completely. Yeah, and both at the game and outside the game. It's changed how we operate. Social media engagement has to be there. You have to have a conversation with your fans, which I think is fantastic because you get real-time feedback as to what they like and what they don't like. But then you have to activate on that. So for us, the game is the product, but it's still an entertainment piece. And whether millennials or any fan that comes, there needs to be an experience there. And if you're paying a professional price, you expect to receive a professional experience, win or lose. And I think that's something that we're tasked with all the time. But I like the social media side. It gets negative some, but I think there's a lot of times where you're able to keep a finger on the pulse of what your fans, your consumers really think. They aren't saying it behind your back anymore. They're saying it to your face.
In your customers, do you find that they say millennials have different expectations in terms of cuisine or products that are offered?
They do, and a study actually recently came out that showed that millennials will spend a greater proportion of their disposable income on food compared to any other generation. Wow. It's kind of shocking, but hopefully that trend will keep growing for us.
I mean, there's a big push for local, which I know is a key thing that would be for you guys, but they'll spend more if it's local as well in a food and retail standpoint.
Are you finding that with the retail presence, that the expectation is that it will be more originated locally cuisines?
Absolutely. We've seen a significant rise in our local restaurants and how they are perceived, as well as the nationals turning towards local suppliers, because that's a value that millennials express very clearly. And really, I think what it comes back to is millennials are very focused on community, very focused on how can I help my neighbor and be a part of my neighbor's life. And that's one of the main things that we endeavor to do as a city, and what I endeavor to do in my professional life at North Hills is provide a community that people can plug in, have events where they can connect with family and friends, provide connections between office tenants and retailers, retailers and residents, and residents and office tenants, so that they can know each other, know the people in the shop down below them, so they can come in and pick up their bagel and know exactly who made it that morning.
Right.
So I think it's about community. That's relevant with social media. The social media community is very valuable and important to millennials, and so I think it all kind of revolves around community.
You know, one of the aspects that of running a business that many business people report is it's difficult for them to feel as though the policymakers understand the implications of marketplace challenges and the changing consumer appetites and those sorts of things. Bonner, you're sort of uniquely positioned. In addition to your full-time job, you're also a member of the Raleigh City Council. So you serve that dual purpose of being not just a business person, but also a policy maker. What has that experience taught you about the way elected officials understand and perceive issues that impact businesses?
Yeah, it's very different. You know, what I see in my government role is actually very similar to what I experience in my professional role. If there's an issue with a street within North Hills, it's my responsibility. If there's an issue with a street outside of North Hills, it's also my responsibility. So the workflow basically is very similar. I'll find an issue and then I know who to contact to deal with it. but business and government look at themselves very differently. Government obviously has a regulatory role, which business doesn't, and so the government needs to be run as a business in terms of how we're providing services and making sure that those services are a better product than our competitors. Our competitors are other cities. People vote or they buy with their feet. They either come to our community and continue to invest in our community, or they go somewhere else. So as a government, we've got to craft the best product we possibly can, and then look to market and sell that externally to try and attract growth and economic investment.
Sheila, what are some of the challenges that you feel like you face that elected officials maybe don't understand?
Speed.
And that's where the regulatory piece comes in.
Yeah. So many times I'm working on an issue now that we as consumers or business people want to move an issue forward, and it's so hard to understand sometimes the process of why it takes 2 months to get on an agenda or to get an issue resolved, or who is the right person to go to, who is our omnibudsman for me as a little business person to work through issues with local or state government and or local and state government. So Bonner, I would ask you, how do we get on my side, how do we as small business people get to people like you that are the decision makers to help us move things quickly?
Yeah, well, and the bureaucracy of government is real. I mean, everybody understands that.
Oh no!
Yeah, everybody knows that, but once you get into it, you start to understand the reasons behind a good amount of the bureaucracy. I mean, often there will be state regulations that require a public notice in 10 days before a public hearing.
Right.
Before the public hearing, there's a city ordinance that says that the staff needs 14 days to review the application, and then there may be some process before that where citizens need to be notified, or there need to be neighborhood meetings.
Yeah.
And so over time, what happens is those components get added upon each other and end up with a potentially overly bureaucratic process.
Right.
I think the challenge is that the government is going to have to the buck stops with the government.
It does.
And it's very easy for people in elected office who are seeking to get reelected to do everything in their power to make sure nothing bad happens. So if that's your bias, if you're looking to make sure nothing bad happens, then you're going to continue to add those steps as a protection, theoretically, against the taxpayers being hurt.
Right.
But the level of oversight that's required, I think, is a constant ongoing debate. And as you add regulations, as we all know, it's very hard to dial those back, because you're taking away a safeguard, theoretically.
Right.
You're taking away a protection of the taxpayers. And so people are very averse to doing that, because it may mean they lose a seat on the city council or other elected body.
And they're averse to taking risk.
It creates a culture of aversion to risk. And frankly, it's hard to get elected officials who are elected every 2 years and may have a strong desire to keep their seat to take risks and risk losing that seat.
Right.
What are some of the issues of running a major sports franchise that elected officials you think would not necessarily understand that you would hope they would appreciate?
Well, I think elected officials understand everything that we try to do.
Good answer.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we provide that I don't think is always seen, whether it's elected officials or anyone else, is that professional level for the area. A lot of times we'll be the first place that the Chamber of Commerce calls if they've got a company coming in to visit the area. If they want to entertain clients, we're the first place they come, because it validates the market as being a professional market. The second thing I don't think that a lot of people see is our community impact. I think people see the professional team, they think about the players, but they don't think about what we do on a day-to-day basis, month to month, season or off season. And that's when we get out in the community, we give back in dollars, we give back in hours. The TBJ, the Triangle Business Journal, does a top 25 of their most philanthropic companies. last 3 or 4 years, we've been 6th or 7th. We've kind of been battling with another company for 6th or 7th. That's amazing when you look at the companies around us. When it's GSK, when it's Duke Energy, when it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we aren't always a for-profit company. So that's a really inspiring thing for me and my staff, is to make sure that we have that community involvement. One, because it is big for our fans, but two, it's the right thing to do to grow the area.
Right. Well, Ryan, there's really not an industry more regulated than agriculture at any level. So what are some of the things you don't think elected officials would necessarily understand about your company?
No offense, common sense. That's a big one that we.
I would concur on that.
We're heavily regulated, more on the federal side. USDA is there every second that we're processing. The regulations that we have jumped through to do what we do, we aren't a commercial producer. The regulations are basically built around commercial producers. We, air chill all of our heritage birds. That's instead of a chlorinated bath. It's USDA's published allows now basically parasitic and hydrochloric acids to be dumped on poultry. It was bleaching our birds when we tried to do it. That was their recommendation, that we had to put all these chemicals on our product, and our chefs hated it. It hurt our business substantially. We've come out with a new way to do it using ozone, and USDA has no idea of how to handle that. It's getting the exact same end results, but it's much cleaner, it's better for the product, it doesn't leave any residues on the product, and they just can't wrap their head around why we aren't doing it the way that the bigger guys are doing it. And so I'm saying common sense would be helpful in a lot of areas.
Well, despite the differences in your companies, they all rely on North Carolina being a healthy and vibrant place economically, and that includes a lot of factors. It's investments in infrastructure, it's taxation and utilities and all of those sorts of things. But from your perspective, we've had a lot of discussions over the last year or so about what the reputation of North Carolina is as a place to do business, from all of the various aspects of what that means. But for each of you, what would you say is the most important thing we need to do as a state to maintain a solid reputation and to be vibrant economically?
That's a really good question. Most important thing, I think, as Bonner said earlier, education's a key piece of what we've been built around. I think when we speak across the U.S., Canada, internationally, people notice first our universities. If we let those things slip, I think that's what our area was built on, and I think having that talent stay here is what allows the workforce to grow. So 64 people are moving into Wake County a day. We want to keep them moving in, but they aren't going to do it if that educated workforce isn't here. And I think that's been a backbone of what we've been built on.
Well, quality health care too, in our area is one of the most, the reason that and you see people moving here every day to be with their children, so we've become a big retirement community as well, which I think is good because they're moving from other areas of the country that they're used to going. I mean, we didn't know what hurricanes were or what, it was all a new thing to us several years ago. I remember being involved in the chamber.
Almost
and it was
20 years ago.
Has it been that long? Oh my God.
19th season.
Yeah, but we have become a retirement area for people moving in. Their children move to our area for jobs and opportunities, and because like Raleigh was just voted the #1 best place in the world to live. Cary was voted, like 6th or 7th. So in our area, nothing against Winston-Salem, but in our area, we have got so much to offer people, and as we say, education and quality health care and good entertainment opportunities and that sort of thing is what we need as business people to continue to focus on, to be sure that we don't let anything slip.
I would say to just lower the red tape, the bureaucracy in government. It's becoming increasingly difficult to even start new business. You have to jump through loopholes, registering your company and getting any permits that you might need, and also reducing the benefits to encourage people to get back to work. That would be extremely helpful.
I would say that we need to continue to think of our investments and how they will affect the big picture. From a big picture, what are we going to invest in as a state? And then looking at the quadruple bottom line of those investments. You know, what's the return from an economic standpoint, but also what's the return from an environmental standpoint? Are we protecting our future? What's the return from a social standpoint? Is it going to help us work better together as a people? And then from a cultural standpoint, is it going to help us preserve our history and help us become what we want to be in the future? So if we analyze our investments with those four lenses, then we're going to come to the answers which would lead to less bureaucracy, which would lead to greater investment in education. And so I think it's having a very high level view of how our state is going to be affected by the investments that we make from those four lenses.
You know, Doug, you work with a workforce principally of folks from other parts of the country and other parts of the world, quite frankly. Sort of curious, what do the players think about North Carolina, the time they spend here on the ice? What is their perception of North Carolina?
They love it. You know, to the point that she was making as well, the medical care here is fantastic. So when they come here, they know that education will be strong and the medical care is strong. I think what most are surprised by is they think of North Carolina as a rural area. And they find that it's not, that it has big city amenities, whether it's Raleigh, Charlotte, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, you name it. But it still has that small town feel. And I think that's what attracts a lot of them to stay here. We have a lot of players who play in a lot of other places that come back here after retirement and make this home because it feels like home. And I think that's kind of the beauty of where we are right now, is that we have some of those big city feelings but still have small town feel.
I want to thank all of you for joining me today. It was great working lunch, great conversation. I do want to say, go Canes.
Thank you.
No pressure. We know the season's getting ready to get started, but we would like to see the Stanley Cup come back to North Carolina this season if possible, Doug.
Bring it to the next one. It'll be a white table lunch.
At the Matthews House.
Yeah, there we go.
Working Lunch is a production of UNC TV in association with the North Carolina Free Enterprise Foundation. Funding for Working Lunch is provided by the financial contributions of viewers like you. Additional funding is provided by First Bank, McGuire Woods Consulting, and Fidelity Investments.